After moving to Asia, the exciting nightlife really brought that side out of me. Me and my friend used to hang around the red light district in Ho Chi Minh City quite a bit, but that was peanuts compared to what I was about to experience. I wasn't moving to Thailand permanently, but I had just finished my Vietnam experience, which had been quite similar. I needed to do a visa run before re-entering Vietnam. I planned to stay in Thailand for just a couple of nights, enjoy the beach during the day and the nightlife at night. But after experiencing it for just one day, I decided to stay longer. I settled in Phuket for my daily activities. One night, I was riding my motorbike from my hotel to Patong at around 8:30 p.m, which was about a 15-minute ride away. I had learned from past Southeast Asian nights out to only bring around $60 with me when going out partying. If I brought my entire wallet, it usually ended up with me waking up the next morning a couple of $100 poorer and with a stranger in my bed. I didn't want that to happen, so I set off to Bangla Road with around 2,000 baht in my pocket. I did my usual routine of pre-gaming with a small bottle of cheap 7-Eleven vodka on the beach to save money and get a buzz before hitting the bars and clubs. I was completely dumbstruck by how awesome the nightlife was in Phuket. Beautiful girls were walking around everywhere, and the party vibe was perfect. It really did have the best all-round welcoming vibe, much more so than Vietnam. I got into drinking at the bars and dancing with girls. By around midnight, I had already spent all of my money. I'm not even sure how I blew it so fast, probably buying drinks for a lady friend. Needless to say, I was pretty drunk by this point. I had to take my motorbike home as I didn't have enough money for a cab. Thinking back, I could have handled things better. I walked around the beach for a bit to try to sober up. Once I felt reasonably okay, I made a huge mistake. In Vietnam, drinking and driving isn't really considered a serious offence. I had done it many times. If I got pulled over, I would usually slip the cop about $40 and be on my way. I thought it would be the same in Thailand. I didn't realise that Thailand had recently started cracking down hard on drunk drivers. The country has one of the highest rates of motorbike-related deaths in the world. So I headed back towards my hotel, still a bit buzzed but feeling okay. As I left Patong, everything looked clear and I honestly wasn't even thinking about getting pulled over. Then I made a left turn and saw police lights, many officers and a few unfortunate foreigners already pulled over. This didn't concern me too much based on my previous experience in Southeast Asia. A young, tall Thai officer flashed his flashlight into my eyes and signalled for me to pull over. He demanded I turn off the bike and step off, which I did. Then he said I must be drunk and pulled out his breathalyzer. I had spent a good amount of time trying to sober up and wasn't even 100% sure I'd fail the test. I blew into the device and it read 0.7. I thought, great, I've passed. In the US, the legal limit is 0.8, but apparently in Thailand it's 0.5 or lower. I can't remember exactly. The cops lit up like they had just caught me committing a murder. The officer said, "You cannot drive." That's when it hit me. This wasn't like Vietnam. In Vietnam, the cops didn't get this excited about drunk drivers. I tried to reason with them, telling them I wasn't drunk and that my headlight was just broken. Then I asked how much money they wanted and I told them to follow me to my hotel where I would pay them. They just said no and led me away. They told me to get into a truck and wait there while they continued pulling people over. As I was walking towards the truck, I saw another unlucky American guy getting the same treatment. I got into the truck and found 5 other foreigners already sitting there. I asked them what's going on and if we could just pay them off. A Canadian guy looked at me and said, "That's not going to work, man." That's when it really hit me. This was bad. The Canadian told me not to worry though. He had a plan. He said they were going to officially breathalyze us again at the station, but if we had a penny in our mouth, it would throw off the reading. I thought to myself, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But he really believed in it and gave us each a penny just in case. They took us to the police station and sat down at a big table. Some time went by and just as the Canadian predicted, they went around with the breathalyzer again. He was first. I was curious to see if his trick worked. He blew a ridiculously high number. His theory was officially confirmed as nonsense. They went around the rest of us. On the second test, I blew a 0.6. That's when everything hit the fan. We were both further into the police station. They took all our possessions, fingerprinted us, and documented our entry. Then we were placed into a cell. The cell was bare, no blankets, no pillows, no comfort of any kind. It held about 11 people, 6 Thai guys with tattoos, and 5 foreigners. There was just one hole in the ground for everyone to use as a toilet. The noise from the neighbouring cells made those walls seem paper thin. As they were placing us inside, I asked them what I could do to get out. They didn't respond, just uncuffed me and shut the door. I was full on shitting myself. At this point, the Thai guys, mostly young men with tattoos, seemed amused by how scared we were. It was as if they had seen this all before. One Australian guy with us suddenly started screaming and yelling. At the time, I thought it was genuine, but looking back, I think it was an act. He said he needed his medicine from his hotel room or he was going to die. He put on quite a show and it didn't help my anxiety at all. Thankfully, the police escorted him out of the cell. Eventually, I couldn't help but fall asleep. I used my t-shirt as a pillow and managed maybe 4 hours of sleep. Waking up in that tiny jail cell was probably the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. The hangover didn't help either. I was thirsty as hell and noticed only the Thai guys had snacks and water. I asked the guard for water and was ignored. But one Thai guy saw me struggling and gave me some water from his bottle. I thanked him deeply. It was the first positive interaction I'd had in there. It was Friday night when I was arrested and I didn't realise the courts wouldn't open up until Monday. I thought I'd just pay a fine and I'd be out. I chatted with the other foreigners and made a few friends. Eventually the guards announced our bail bond would be $1,200. I forget the exact baht amount, but that's what I remember. They gave us our phones back briefly so we could contact someone to bring the money. Everyone else had someone to call, but I told them I was alone and needed to return my hotel to pay. They agreed. The next day when everyone else had gone and it was my turn, my phone was missing. I told the guard who said he'd look for it. He didn't come back for ages. Meanwhile, everyone else was on their phones except me. He finally returned and said, "Phone not here." That was it. I felt horrible. What was I going to do now? How long would I be stuck in here? All of my cellmates were slowly released after paying their $1,200 bail. I asked each one to contact the US Embassy for me when they got out. They promised they would. That second night, I was alone in a cell with 6 Thai guys who surprisingly turned out to be some of the kindest people I'd ever met. They had people dropping off food and drinks for them. When they saw I was hungry, they shared everything. They even gave me a pillow. Later, when they brought out cigarettes, I looked on with envy. They noticed and offered me some. We smoked and joked in broken English all night. They were truly awesome guys. I learnt they were all in there for substance-related offences. Each had the option to pay a huge fine or spend 3 to 5 years in prison. Apparently, each year spent in prison reduced the fine by 100,000 baht, and they were waiting for it to drop enough to afford it. Despite everything, I was genuinely enjoying their company. This was one of the most real cultural experiences I've ever had. One guy's girlfriend even snuck in some banana moonshine from Vietnam. It wasn't much, but strong enough to get us all a bit tipsy. We played simple games like flicking a folded paper into each other's hands to pass the time. I showed them one I had learned in high school, and they loved it. They told me not to worry. Drunk driving wasn't as serious for foreigners as it was for Thais. They advised me not to pay the bail, but wait until court where the fine would be lower and reduced by the time served. That turned out to be true. Monday morning came and I was brought to court. It was a long, strange process. I was shackled and waiting in a crowded holding area. The old Thai man, clearly mentally unwell, was walking around shouting. It was a surreal experience. Eventually, I saw the judge. Everything was conducted in Thai. I noticed all the other foreigners I was arrested with were dressed clean and neat, while I looked like I had been sleeping on cement for 3 days. We all got minimum penalties between 2,000 and 3,000 baht, discounted for the nights we had already spent in jail. But I still didn't have any money. So what happened next? Believe it or not, a Thai police officer who worked in the prison section offered to pay my fine if I paid him back with an extra 500 baht. I happily agreed. The story doesn't end there though. When I returned to the police station the next day to repay the officer and collect my passport, which they had retrieved from my hotel, something strange happened. As I was walking out of the building, I saw the police chief walking towards the station with a very attractive girl. I whistled to the officer next to me, signalled hot girl alert. He looked at me and asked if I wanted to get a massage with him, or maybe something else. I asked what he meant, and he said he knew the girl and that he could give a nice massage and other services. I declined, thinking this might be some sort of a setup. Just goes to show you where the local police department's priorities were. Anyway, that's my story. Lesson learned. Don't drink and drive in Thailand. Another lesson learned. Thai people can be some of the kindest people in the world. The guys who helped me in jail were lifesavers. I even returned later with boxes of sweets, sodas and cigarettes hidden at the bottom of rice boxes to thank them. They were great people. I hope to meet them again someday and thank them one last time. So what a good story. He's right though. Don't drink and drive in Thailand. You can't most of the time you can't just pass money like the old days. You stand a good chance of getting arrested and going to court. I don't know if you could get deported for drinking and driving. I doubt it, but it's not very advisable. And the other thing is you could have a serious accident. You know, I mean, look at the stories we hear of guys who are on big motorbikes in Pattaya. And they're drunk out of their minds and they go flying down the beach road and, knock some ties over and do some serious damage. So it's not a good idea to drink and drive. And with regards to what he was saying about the Thai people being very kind, if you've been to Thailand before, how many times have you walked past, say, a group of massage girls who are sitting outside their shop eating rice and you smile at them and they offer to feed you, they invite you to sit with them and eat? Not just massage girls, any kind of Thais who eat, they always, ask you, would you like some? Very, very kind indeed.